she's years old. She came home from school talking about sex ed. And I said, no problem. I wasn't prepared for where that was going to take the situation.
Not pursue the girl pursued me.
It is my goal, my aspiration, to teach your offspring, your young, how to make love.
Tiny house? Recently, you may or may not have seen the news about a creator who recently has fallen heavy from grace due to alleged claims of predatory behavior, potentially him wanting to start a cult and having all these grandiose ideas that truly are detrimental to the platform and society as a whole. So let's sink our teeth right in. I'm your boy Peablar, and come along with me to expose the dark secrets of Jesse Stark, also known as Black Sheep, Tiny House, and also known as the Free Range Human. Let's jump right in, guys. Got a lot to dig into. This is our man here. His name is Jesse Wayne Stark, and he's out of Oregon. Not trying to dox the guy too much, but this is all public information from what I've found online, and I'm just going to be sharing it with you guys today. I combed through all of his profiles that are currently public. His TikTok has gone down, his Instagram has gone down, but his YouTube is still up. So I combed through it and I found some pretty interesting little tidbits that spread some light onto him as a person, his world views, and the depravity of him as a whole. He had a pretty substantial following on TikTok, a pretty nice following on YouTube, and he's been fairly new on TikTok, but he's been on YouTube for quite a while, making a lot of fairly basic type content. So we have his page here, Free Range Human. It's still up. I don't suggest going and watching his videos though, because he is getting monetized, so let's not send any money his way. I'm sure a lot of this stuff, due to these claims and all this controversy, he's probably getting a lot of traction in making that dough, so let's not give him any more eyes. But you can see he's been on here for 7 years, and he originally started out doing a bunch of project style videos, DIY stuff, time lapses, and it was all fairly harmless for the most part, guys. He starts incorporating motorcycles into his content, which kind of forms the overall vibe. And then he posts a video called Freedom versus Oppression, the 1,000-Year War, which is an hour long. I had to put on, 0.25 playback speed, and I watched through the whole thing, and it's pretty much just like a monologue of him talking about the shortcomings of the society that we live in, the definition of oppression and freedom, whether or not we're taught what is right or wrong, or if we can actually just decipher that as a whole, and if society stifles us from having that natural ability. So far, this is very surface level stuff from him. It's nothing that's like jaw-dropping. He's clearly just trying to break out of the social norms, dude. He's just like a little quirky, bro. I think there's something else. Yeah, there was something funny about this title. It says INFJ perspective, so it's his personality type lashing out against the society that we have formed. It's just him on a motorcycle for the most part, and he just has this monologue and he talks about all these random things. And then at the end of the video, he gives himself a little bit of a shameless plug. He says that he has an audio book out that he wants us to all check out called The Technology of Love. So I decided to hop on audiobooks and check out my man Jesse's book, see what he's got going. And so I found it here. It's got 1 5-star review, definitely not from Jesse himself, let's be real. And I read the title, the description here, and it stood out a little weird to me. I don't know why, but I'm gonna read it to you guys. It says, I could still vividly remember being 12 years old. I remember sitting in class in middle school science class. The teacher liked to show us reel-to-reel science films left over from the 60s and 70s. Essentially, he sat in this class and she was playing films, and she would get up and correct some of the incorrect terminology, factoids, all that stuff that was in the films, saying, hey guys, science has, improved over the years and there has been advancements. This information is no longer valid. So then he goes, as my 12-year-old self sat there listening to the teacher explain this, I looked down at the science textbook that was sitting on the table in front of me. Unlike the old reel-to-reel film, the textbook was a recent scientific publication. It struck me as odd that the writers of the textbook present their information as fact rather than theory. I wonder to myself how much of the information being presented in these textbooks will in the future be known to be inaccurate or even blatantly wrong. So, not sure exactly what the technology of love is, but it definitely sets the character type for Jesse where he's, he thinks outside the box and nothing is real, and maybe societal norms need to be questioned, which, there's nothing wrong with that. A small dose of that is always healthy in everybody's life, but it definitely can be a slippery slope, and as we'll learn, Jesse has a pretty dark past that may be a huge factor into shaping his worldview. So if you go further into his channel, he keeps posting a little sporadically. He makes a post selling his house. He sold his mobile home and ultimately started living in this winter camper, DIY truck camper that he builds a year later. And he pretty much goes over everything, explaining that the channel is going to have a new vibe where he goes around on his dirt bike, traveling, taking his truck around with him. And then he posts a video called "I Committed a Sex Crime. This is what I did." So in this video, this sets a new format for his channel that will proceed after this video. And it's pretty much like a podcast style video where he just sits and talks to the camera. And he talks about an experience that he had when he was younger. Trigger warning, I should have said this at the beginning of the video. I'm probably gonna just cut this and put it at the beginning of the video as well. At this part, we talk about some pretty gross stuff involving PDF files and just not good stuff. So if you don't want to hear about this, you can skip ahead by like 20-30 seconds. Essentially, he does some bad stuff with a minor. But if you want to hear the details, stick along. If you don't, skip forward. Essentially, he talks to us and he tells us a story about how he was living with his girlfriend or wife, presumably, and she had a stepdaughter. He talks about how as she grew up, she became curious about sexuality and things of that nature.
Fast forward years later, I got in this relationship with this woman with a young daughter, and she's 12 years old. She came home from school talking about sex ed. And I said, no problem. I believe you have a right to know the truth. And if there's anything you want to know, I'll just be as open and honest with you as I can. I wasn't prepared for where that was going to take the situation. I was blindsided by this.
One thing led to another. We don't really need to get into the full details of it, the nitty-gritty. He claims that she was the one who initiated it every time. He says that, she would peek on him in the shower numerous times and stuff.
I remember a time I was in the shower one time, and, I'm washing the soap out of my hair and, rinsing off, and I open my eyes and I see the shower curtain fall back into place. And I was, whoa, what? And I peeked out there, and she had snuck into the bathroom and was peeking around the curtain, staring at me naked. Again, we had a big old conversation, and I started locking the door.
He says that she would walk in on him changing, walk in when he's taking showers. One thing led to another. They spent a lot of time alone, and things happened.
That day where she dipped her head under my arm and put my hand on her breast is the moment in which some sort of switch kind of got flipped in me. There was kind of an explosion all at the same time. I was oblivious to the fact that she was coming at me up until that moment. And when that clicked for me, it was like everything, in my brain, everything that my culture told me over here was exploding, because I didn't think that it was possible for her to be attracted to me. So I was totally confused by this. So there was all kinds of mental confusion going on. And at the same time, my biology kind of took hold to a certain extent. My repressed biology took hold over my body at that moment. So there was some sexual tension that developed inside of me in an instant. And so there was just this big explosion of chaos inside of me.
When he describes what happened, he says that there was this emotion within him that he, what was the word that he used?
My repressed biology.
Implying that society said that this was not okay and that he needs to, you know, bury those emotions, and he has some sort of attraction to minors potentially. He also mentions that he was reading a book during this time period.
It's been over 10 years since I was arrested and went to prison and all that. But so it has taken a very long time for me to like figure out what happened. And one of the things that helped me to understand what happened between she and I was reading Margaret Mead's book called Coming of Age in Samoa.
It's a book about the youth, specifically the adolescent girls in Samoa, just life over there. He talks a lot about how there's a lot of excerpts of there's no sexual implications in their society. They're free to do what they need to. He feels as if growing up in our society, in a Western society, those ideologies related to minors are incorrect and they just need to be corrected, making him feel as if he did something wrong when he feels he didn't.
I understand now that there's nothing wrong with reproductive biology, that, you know, when you're 12 years old, biology is doing what biology is supposed to do and what it's always done. But there is something very, very wrong with our religious cultural ideology around sexuality. That's abundantly clear when you look out at our culture. I mean, we are all twisted up around sexuality.
He opens up a bit and he says that when he was growing up, he was raised in a Christian household, and how he thinks that and Christian society is pretty much just like ruining his brain. Pretty much.
The church culture that I was in told me that, oh, you're bad, you're wrong, that's evil, you're going to hell. So I got all twisted up.
He said that, you know, he wasn't really allowed to like have any type of emotional feelings towards women until after he was at the age of 18, which is what he was told to do to, you know, be a good Christian or whatever. Being
in my teenage years was horrible, because my body wanted sexuality, was my biology, my natural biology was just exploding out of my body and needing an outlet.
And, you know, that's not necessarily right. That's not what is taught in all paths of Christianity. There are people who go crazy with it, obviously, but it sounds like it really messed him up, and it's some really messed up stuff. I have a little excerpt from the book here, and I want to read this because it does play into something that he says later, which I don't think is coincidental. I think it really shows how crazy this man has spiraled over the years with his ideology. The children must be taught how to think, not what to think. And because old errors die slowly, they must be taught tolerance, just as today they are taught intolerance. They must be taught that many ways are open to them, no one sanctioned above its alternative, and that upon them and upon them alone lies the burden of choice, unhampered by prejudice, unvexed by too early conditioning to any one standards, that they must come clear-eyed to the choice which lie before them. So again, this ideology of don't let society form you and tell you what is okay and not okay. You need to come to these conclusions yourself. Everything you feel is all right. And in this video, again, he says he remembers crystal clearly when he was 12 years old, which, you know, it completely aligns with the description of his book when he was 12 years old, learning about the technology of love, apparently. But in this video, he says he remembers when he was 12.
I remember being 12 years old. I remember what it was like. I vividly remember what it was like. And when I was 12 years old, you could have, if you told me that I could experience sexuality with a 25 or 30-year-old woman as a 12-year-old, but only if I let you chop off my little toe with a rusty saw. I wanted sexuality so bad when I was 12 years old that I wouldn't have hesitated for a second. Absolutely, I would have. And I remember that vividly.
He says that he feels like when you're going through puberty and you're at this age, these are emotions that you shouldn't suppress even though society tells you to. So he's got some deep-rooted issues with society. He's really not a fan of it. Definitely teetering on the side of being a PDF file. But let's go on. Towards the very end, for some reason he says that the girl's name is Maria, the girl that he had this encounter with. He says that she doesn't go by that name, but that is her name. And he ends the video with a single sentence saying,
I was persecuted and imprisoned for 3.5 years, permanently labeled as a sex offender for my contact with a young virgin named Maria, the Virgin Mary.
And ends the video, okay? And a few of these other videos, like I said, he said he grew up in a Christian environment, and there's religious themes sprinkled out throughout all of these videos. So there's some religious undertones, there's undertones about society, undertones about, you know, uprising, all that type of stuff. Once you hop onto TikTok and see what he was posting leading up to his account being wiped and all these people, you know, exposing him, you can see that he was going like completely manic or something. Something was going on. He was like literally borderline about to start a cult. Okay, guys? So let's see what we got. So this is the first video that I saw going around a lot on TikTok, which surprisingly enough, a lot of people were sharing this in support of him. Pretty much he goes on this long monologue about how Jesus was not this, and then says something contradictory to, you know, a fairly well-known belief of Jesus as a person or his character or his teachings. At the end of the video, this is what he leaves us with.
In fact, Christianity is so far removed from the life and teachings of Jesus that a modern Christian would not even recognize the second coming if they were looking it in the eye.
Okay, so this dude's implying that he is Jesus Christ in the flesh right now. Then he says this.
I'm a registered sex offender. I spent 3.5 years in prison for assaulting a 12-year-old girl.
It is my goal, my aspiration, to teach your offspring, your young, how to make love. Yes, I'm talking 10, 11, 12 years old. I want to teach your children how to make love.
All right, excuse me, what, bro? So now he wants to teach children how to make love. Fully mask off. In the video where he was discussing the event that originally happened, he says, hey, by no means am I a PDF file, guys. Just to let you know. Clearly you are, son. Clearly you are, dude. So you have him talking about how society is imposing these, you know, these rules that shape the youth to suppress their natural feelings, and how they don't need to be taught what to think, but just how to think or whatever. And like, dude, clearly you are, like, he's just exhibiting straight up predator behaviors. He wants to teach these children, like, it's just completely mask off. He's going off the deep end now.
131,000 followers for this at Black Sheep Tiny House. If you're one of those 131,000 followers, please unfollow me, block me, get rid of me. I don't want you on my platform. With that being said, let me show you why.
I spent 3.5 years in prison for a crime I did not commit.
I went to prison because I turned myself in. I told the detective I was in Mexico, but I would come home. I scheduled an appointment with him. I sat down across from him at his desk. He put a tape recorder on the desk and pushed record. I spilled the fucking beans. I told him every detail that he wanted to know. I answered his questions. I would not have gone to prison if I had not confessed.
And if you think the flip-flop from I didn't do it to yes, I confessed, so I took accountability and now trying to gain people's sympathy, here's the worst part.
I did not pursue the girl. The girl pursued me.
Now, to be clear, the girl that he's talking about was 12 years old. Now he's on TikTok not only trying to justify this, but he's also trying to offer you guys sexual education on an app where there are kids present. I did speak to somebody in the sheriff's department in his location where he's at. I did find out that he is a registered SO, but with no supervision, so he is allowed to be on social media. But I did speak to the sheriff's department to let them know kind of what I see online and what my concerns are about the fact that there are children on this app. They're going to be looking into it. I'll say it one more time. If you are part of this 131,000 people and you follow me, Please stop following me today.
So yeah, he's going off the deep end, guys. He came forward with the story on YouTube in a completely different vibe, very humble. Like, I don't know if he actually was humble. He seems like an egotistical guy, and like he was kind of would be manipulative. So I think he was just trying to set the narrative of like, oh, you know, I'm the victim here. That was definitely that was very clearly the message I got from it, just from watching it. But there's a very solemn vibe to the original video. Now he's just blatantly screaming at the camera saying that he is not at fault. He turned himself in. Another interesting detail is when he turned himself in, he said that when they were investigating him, they wanted to know how many times this occurred, and he didn't know. Like, for some reason it really bugged him that they wanted the details of the case. Like, no duh, Sherlock, you're out here diddling children, bro. What do you expect, dog? He apparently told the detective it happened more than once and less than 1,000,000 times. Like, bro, what? So yeah, you know, this guy is a danger to us all. Like, genuinely, he's a danger to everybody. His account has since gone off. Everything's over. It's gone. He's MIA. But if you know him, if you work around him, whatever the situation may be, just be careful. Make sure there's no children around him, guys. And if he asks you to join his cult because he believes that he is Jesus Christ for some reason, definitely watch out. Maybe there, like, if you do really know him, maybe call for a wellness check on him, because it seems like something mentally is going on. Clearly, he's spiraling, and aside from being a danger to others, he could be potentially a danger to himself. Hopefully he gets the help he needs, guys. But that's going to conclude it for the Jesse Stark story. Another creator on the platform who unfortunately wound up being a sketchy predator who had cult-like tendencies, potentially. I don't even know, man. This one's gonna be crazy to edit. This thing was like all over the place, but it was all over my TikTok over the past few days, so I figured we gotta jump into the story. It was just too crazy. If you guys enjoyed the content today, consider dropping a like and a subscribe and hitting that bell. I post 3 times a week, expose videos, body cam footage, all that kind of fun stuff, and sometimes solemn stuff like today. Today was not a fun vibe, okay? But if you like the content, consider joining the Peablar army. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, and we are ever growing. So make it a part of your weekly schedule, guys, and get into the loop. As for me, I am your boy Peablar. It's been real, and until next time, be well and peace.